What's up, Atlanta? Welcome into Locked On Sports Atlanta. It's our ATL Hangout here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. I'm Mark Zinno, joined by Jon Chuckery, Jarvis Davis, Tenitra Batiste, everybody here on the Locked On Sports Atlanta Network. Great to be with you guys on this Friday. How is everybody doing?
Cool.
Yeah, good.
Wonderful.
I mean, listen, ready for week 2.
Yeah, we got some college football.
Ozzy's back.
Ozzy is back.
Woo-hoo!
We got games this weekend. There's Braves baseball. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to talk about and a lot to do. Let's get it started, guys, here with the Falcons. Listen, we're all still living in the wake of what happened in week 1, and it certainly wasn't how any of us thought it was going to go or thought it was going to be. But, you know, they go on to take on the defending champs this weekend in LA. What you expect to be a much tougher test than New Orleans. This is a Rams team that has 3 extra days rest. They're ticked off because they got beat badly in week 1 at home. This could be a bloodbath, or could it be another game where the Falcons can hang tight for 60 minutes? Well, 57 minutes.
Certainly if they can. Oh, go ahead, Jarvis.
I think one of the things that you got to really look at, Mark, is the fact that, you know, there are several different factors coming into this game, right? You know, the Rams offensive line has some injuries that they're dealing with. And then also, you know, the Saints, you know, have Cam Jordan, but, you know, the Rams also have Aaron Donald. So, you know, Elijah Wilkinson, I went back and watched the film. That dude had a really solid game. He's going to have a whole nother one just to contain Donald. I'm not saying he's going to be able to stop him, but he and Drew Dalman are going to have to figure out a way how they can double team him pretty consistently throughout this game.
Yeah, if you can control the line of scrimmage in the NFL, you're going to be in every game. So if their offensive line can do what it did last week, if their defensive line, now obviously it's a different matchup. The Rams have the best defensive player we've seen in 25 years. And, you know, as our buddy Randy Mack says, football's easy, coaches make it hard. If you can control at the line of scrimmage, then you can be in every football game. If you can't, then that's how you get blown out and turned sideways and everything else in the league.
And I think what you guys mentioned is so important, especially for what Mark mentioned. It's not the 57 minutes, it's the 3 minutes. So if the Falcons can execute their game plan, not be so concerned about, and obviously I know what you're saying, Jarvis, but not be so focused on what Aaron Donald can do, but focus on what Elijah Wilkinson needs to do. Not so focused on what Cooper Kupp or Van Jefferson, if he is able to do, but what is your secondary going to do to ensure that there's not another Michael Thomas part 2 this coming weekend? So I think that's a critical component there as well. Play calling, late game execution. If the Falcons are able to kind of stay in it and keep this game competitive, what happens in those final critical minutes, or if there's a need for a 4-minute offense or a 2-minute offense, are you able to actually execute and close the deal? That's what we're going to need to see. And that requires every guy out there, whether you're right there in the trenches or whether you're the other 7, to just every man do his job.
I am not somebody who is really all that upset about the lead being blown in the grand scheme of things. And I've talked about this all week long. You have to take a 30,000-foot view with this team. You can't get caught up in any specific game, meaning more than anything else. Look, this, by all accounts, is not a playoff team. Now, could losing games like this be the difference between being close to a playoff team and not? Sure. But for all the progress that was made in week 1, if you can be competitive in games like that against superior teams with better talent, that to me says more about where they are in the rebuild process than anything else. And that's what I'm more interested in. I don't care if they blow another 10-point lead in the fourth quarter of the Rams. Show me you can hang with a team that just won the Super Bowl for 55 minutes, and I'll show you a team that's only 2 or 3 players away from being a playoff team next year.
Well, I think the thing, Mark, is
– and I don't want to see them get blown out.
Yeah. Right. Just don't get blown out.
Right, but I think also too, Mark,
I want to see what their superstars are going to do.
Go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I think the difference is what the head coach has talked about in changing the culture. Look, they're not a winning organization by nature over the last handful of years, even with the 60,000 yard Hall of Fame potential quarterback. They've not been a winning organization like they were early in Matt's career. So you're trying to change the culture. That would have been a nice step last week to win that game at home, because they're 7-18 at home in the last 3 years in a game, and against your division rival who you've not played well against. So I do think in a game like last week, there would be a lot to, I mean, there's a lot to take away that's good, but there would be a lot to take away if they had found a way to win that game last week.
Yeah, I mean, look, if they played the Rams last week and it went that way, there would be a completely different reaction. Because it was the Saints, it takes a different look. And I think the coaching staff understands that.
And and that's the thing, right? That, I think you just said it, Mark. It's because they played the Saints, yeah. I was just gonna say that that's why you played against the Saints. That's why it matters, right? Because I remember being in the press box during the game, and I've never seen Mercedes-Benz like that before. Like the way that the crowd was into the game, the way they got louder when the Falcons were on defense. It was just a different atmosphere. I haven't seen anything like that since the Georgia Dome when Michael Vick was playing, because it was just a certain type of atmosphere, and that's what Arthur Smith wants, right? So I think that, when you get yourselves into situations where you got the crowd behind you, you got that home field advantage, so to speak, because we know there were a lot of Saints fans there, and you don't hear them, and you heard those Falcons fans. I think you got to take advantage of that moment, because just like Chuck said, if you're trying to change the culture, you got to take advantage of those little moments right there, because they absolutely matter when you're talking about keeping butts in the seats in the home and the Mercedes-Benz.
Go ahead, T.
Yeah, so I just wanted to, what I was kind of saying earlier is this. I hear what you're saying, Mark, but for me, it wasn't so much that I was upset, by the way. I wasn't one of those who was having a meltdown over what happened last weekend, but rather I just want to see execution. I want to see late game execution. I want to see the Falcons prove that they can win, but I also want to see the Falcons take some of the pieces there, because I think they left some things on the table, right? So when you take a look at Kyle Pitts and how he was utilized, for example, that's an opportunity that the Falcons can take advantage of, trying to figure out how to get him more involved, especially when you get in that low red zone. And you're bringing back Tyler Allgeier. In all likelihood, you're not going to have Damian Williams. Let's see what Tyler Allgeier may be able to do to kind of bolster your ground game, because there were some questions about whether or not there was a pitch count, if you will, for CP. So if that's the case and you want to kind of pull him away from the ground game and give Tyler Allgeier an opportunity, I'd love to see some of those things kind of come to the forefront. And again, give the Falcons just that opportunity to show us, to your point, how they've grown. Whether or not that results in a W, not sure. But at least if it shows us progress and a reset from last week, I also think that's huge.
Well, it didn't look like there was a pitch count on CP. That's for darn sure, at 22 carries, which is not sustainable for him over the course of 17 games. However, Chuckery, you and I will diverge here on this topic about the running game, and we'll get to that in just a second. First, a word from our friends at betonline.net, the number one online source for odds, lines, and games, and it's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs, your favorite sports and events right there at betonline.net. You can find news and reviews of every single league with the NFL and college football in full swing. You're going to get a ton of information each day on the website. Of course, Major League Baseball playoffs getting ready to come. We have NBA and NHL right around the corner. There's combat sports, esports, and even golf. It's all right there at BetOnline. They continue to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, podcasts. They've got you covered. So head to BetOnline today, or use your mobile device to learn more about the action that is happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Chucky, I want to defer to you here real quick, because I know that I was listening to you the other night on your radio show, and I know that you also have felt this way, that Tyler Allgeier kind of needs to get in the game sooner rather than later. I'd like you to expound on it, because I'm going to counter.
Well, first off, you drafted him. That's number one, is that you drafted him for a reason. You drafted him in the 5th round. And let's face it, if your options are Damian Williams or Avery Williams to run the football, then that should be pretty much a no-brainer. Damian Williams is a guy who can't stay healthy, so he proved that again on Sunday. That's why he's where he's at in the league right now. And Avery Williams is literally a running back, because that's just what they designated him at. He's your return guy, right? I mean, if you drafted Avery Williams and he was a guy who carried a heavy workload at BYU, and you gave him 17 carries and 4 receptions in the preseason in 3 games, let's use him. Let's see what he's got. If he falls on his face for this team, fine. He falls on his face, but not because he didn't get a chance to play, but at least give him a shot and let's see what he's got. He can't be any less useful than what Damian Williams is going to be for this team this season. There's a reason why Damian Williams is where he's at in the league.
All right, but explain this. The reason you want to use a second back is because you don't believe that CP3.
Oh yeah,
it was CP84, I should say. CP3, wrong game, wrong guy. Not that CP. He's also old. But you don't believe that Cordero Patterson. 22 carries a game is not sustainable for a 31-year-old who is also off and injured. So that's the reason we're talking about a backup here. But I would contend this, and I said this earlier in the week. I don't need to rush Tyler Allgeier into anything because the fact of the matter is, at some point in time, Cordero Patterson's hurt this year. He's going to miss time. Like that is a bet that I'm willing to make. I would literally rather, because he is the more explosive option, he's the better runner, he's the better everything than every other back they have in that running back room. Squeeze every last ounce of juice out of that lemon and run him into the ground until he physically can't do it anymore, because he's going to give this team the best chance to win football games. And that's what Arthur Smith ultimately wants. Arthur Smith is out here to win games more than anything right now. He said it over and over. They said it through the preseason. So I would rather just use Cordero Patterson to the max until he either gets hurt or the wheels fall off the wagon or it just doesn't work anymore, because that's going to give you the best chance to win games. You're going to find out what Tyler Allgeier has at some point this year. I don't need to have it happen. If CP84 and the Falcons start out 1-7, guess what? Your season's done anyway. Then I'm going to turn to backups and see what they are regardless, because the season is over. So I'm going to start evaluating talent. But until I get to that point, I want the best players that I have on the roster on the field as often as possible. And that's why I don't care who the backup is at this point. Give me CP84. Give me Cordero as much as he physically can stand it until it all breaks.
Well, I would say if you can give Patterson, his career high before Sunday was 16 carries. Yeah. So if I said I can give 16 to 18 carries to Patterson, but I can give 8 to 10 to Tyler Allgeier, I'd take that. I mean, I would, let me put it this way. You know, when everybody tried to sell me on the idea of, well, Jalen Mayfield's third-round pick and this, that, and the other. Okay, you could have put anybody in his position and been better than the worst guy in the league. That proved out on Sunday. Elijah Wilkinson had their highest passing grade among their offense. So you could literally put anybody in and get more results. Can I tell you, you can put anybody in over Damian Williams and get more than a broken down guy who's only good for 2 carries. It just so happens Allgeier is the guy that they drafted and is on the roster. If you want to tell me they're going to bring Ollison back, but Damian Williams is not an answer. And 22 carries puts Patterson on a pace of 374. Well, there's only 3 guys ever in the history of the NFL since 2000 that have run for 300 carries and been 31 or older. Thomas Jones, Curtis Martin, and Tiki Barber. That's it. Before then, John Riggins, Tony Dorsett, Walter Payton. That's the guys you got to go back to. So it's not sustainable, but you don't have, it's not Michael Turner backing up LaDainian Tomlinson.
But it doesn't have to be sustainable for 17 games, though, I think is the point. It just has to be sustainable enough to figure out whether you're actually going to be competitive. Because look, if through the first 7 games somehow they're 3-4, then things are working. So why would you change it? Why would you go away from it if you're ending up 3-4 after given the schedule you're playing? Things are working for you. Stick with it until,
because you have a player who's never done what's being asked of him.
Right.
You literally are having a guy who's never had to do this before having to do it now. He's never done it.
And there may be something to be said about the fact that when you look at the pass versus rush ratio in those waning minutes of that week 1 game, the scheme, the strategy kept going away from CP. I understand that you say, yeah, maybe, there shouldn't be a pitch counter. There wasn't. But there's a question about whether or not there was, they definitely did not plan to have him carry that ball 22 times. I'm gonna put a stake on that. So if that's the case and there's some semblance of a pitch count, then yeah, you have to get Tyler Allgeier slowly but surely involved, because you really never wanted to go past about 15, 16, 17 carries for CP. And that's probably why you only saw him at 22 versus 25, because let's face it, if CP had that ball probably 2 or 3 more times, that game also could have turned out a bit differently. But on the same token, if you'd already kind of worked that horse more than you had planned to, maybe that's why you scaled back a little bit more on last Sunday, and maybe that's why you're still kind of evaluating and wanting to see where you can insert Tyler Allgeier in sooner.
How many games do you need to figure out what you have with Allgeier? 5? Why can't I do in games 12 and 17?
I don't think you need that because like they just drafted him this year. They've already evaluated him. They know what they have in him. Like Chuck said, he had they gave him 17 carries in the first game because my whole thing is like when I saw that he wasn't dressing on Sunday, I'm just like, okay, my first thing to always ask, like, that's why. Why didn't he dress? Because here's the thing. Here's what keeps rookie running backs off the field in their first years in NFL: pass blocking, pass protection. What Tyler Allgeier, I know for a fact that dude can pass block, and that's one of his greatest assets. And then for you to keep a guy like that off the field, I want to know why. Why did you keep him off the field? And I think there's no reason for you to keep him off the field because that's he's already surpassed the threshold for getting on the field, right? Maybe or not, whether or not he can play special teams, that may have something to do with it, I'm sure. Because those rookies, when you're a 5th round pick, hey, you got to figure out how to do something on special teams in order to be able to dress each and every Sunday to be a part of that 48. But I think that Tyler Allgeier is a guy that's capable. I don't think we're talking about capability. I think we're talking about from a number standpoint of whether or not why he's not being on the field from a special team standpoint.
No, I believe Arthur Smith in that. I mean, the math is 100% correct. It's 48, right? Then it's 45 as specialist, 44 with the backup quarterback. After that, you got 22 total offensive and defensive starters. So now you're down to 22 guys. You're going to carry more than the 3 wide receivers. So you got 3 more at wide receiver. Now we're down to 19. You have at least 3 more at cornerback, if not 4. Now you're down to like 15, right? You're going to have 3 extra backup offensive linemen. Now you're down to 12. You have 2 or 3 extra linebackers who go in coverage. Now we're down to 9. Right? Like these are standards. And by the way, you have to have more than 1 running back. So you're going to have 2 or 3 other ones. Yes, could he have been 2 or 3 of the other ones? But the point simply is, and then you have 4 tight ends this team carries because Arthur Smith goes through them like they're Kleenex. But now you're down to single digits as far as what you have left. And, by the way, some guys only play on special teams for that specific reason. So, I truly believe him when he said it was purely a numbers thing. And just like I think they feel like they have enough time to really see what game speed, real things look like beyond the preseason, beyond what they saw on film and on tape, that they're not worried about figuring out what they have with them now. And I still think giving the ball to CP3 until if it's 22, 25 times, fine. He's not part of the long-term plans for this team anyway. He's gone after this year regardless. And if he's not, he's a secondary player. So I'd rather use what I can with him now and see what happens.
Well, that's why they're putting him back on kickoffs. Is you might as well squeeze everything you can out of him, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you only put him back there on kickoffs if you think he can actually improve what you're already doing, right? So that's why you put him back there. But again, you drafted a rookie for a reason. If you didn't want a running back, then don't draft him. I mean, with all due respect to Damian Williams and some of these vagabonds that they trot out there, let me see.
Eric Harris too.
Yeah. Again, the reason why Eric Harris played 1 snap on Sunday because at this point he's a vagabond. For God's sake. Thank God he's not on the field. Jeez.
He was in on that play when Taysom Hill took off. Dean Marlowe and Eric Harris were in that safety on that particular play.
They didn't bring Fabian Moreau back for a few snaps.
No. We don't mention his name on this show. Yes, he stay away. No. We don't need that.
All right. I did this earlier in the week, and I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts on this. We play a game called Anomaly or Reality. So I'll give you this scenario. You tell me whether you think the game week 1 what we saw was an anomaly or it's something that could be a reality for the rest of the year. So, for example, Jarvis, we'll start with you. Mm-hmm. Not 200 yards rushing, but let's just say, 150 yards per game rushing. Reality or anomaly?
Oh, wow. Man, are you a hedge better? Like, do you set numbers? Because that's a great number.
If they average 130 yards a game on the ground, like this, that's dynamically different.
Yeah,
I
don't put you Browns and some of those teams levels in the NFL if you're 150 a week.
So just get to 120. Like, can they get can they be a consistent 100-yard rushing team?
Give me 120. That's the number I'd take every week if I could get that.
I think 120 is very doable because you add the mobile quarterback piece into there, right? And there are going to be some runs that are going to be some call runs from Marcus Mariota, and there are going to be some runs where, hey, he might be running for his life. He's trying to get away, and he's going, trying to get what he can get. So I think that
he's going to be hurt by week 6 if he keeps taking off. Like it's just bound to happen.
I mean,
when I asked Arthur Smith about sliding, his eyes went out and went, yes. Like he literally, when I asked him, are you talking to Marcus about sliding? Yes, I'm talking to Marcus about sliding.
Well, how about Mariota's response though? How about when he was asked about
That's how I've been playing since I was young.
Right. Like with all due respect, he doesn't know how to do all that. He's never this isn't Colorado that he's going up against, or
somebody call Tom Amansky. We need a sliding drill.
Yeah.
I like for all the people who want to see Desmond Ridder, I guess they want him to run, right?
The anomaly of them being able to run the ball with that measure of success was week one an anomaly, or is it going to be a reality for them?
So I think it was an anomaly, and if your number at 150 is reality, I don't think that's a reality either. So thinking it for scale, so 220 anomaly, 150 anomaly. Unless you consider Marcus Mariota or Desmond Ridder whenever he starts playing, considering that a part of the rush game. For what Jarvis said is 9 rushes, but if we're talking
numbers counted for Philadelphia last year, they counted for the Raiders. All that quarterback stuff counts. I mean, it's not necessarily designed that way, but it makes you a better rushing team. Chuckery, what about you?
Yeah, if you look, they were 85 yards a game last year. If they're staying consistently over 100, I'd take that. But if you could tell me that they're 120 every week, yeah, absolutely. And look, those guys would rather rather rush block up front. So if that's going to be your strength, if you can tell me we're about 120.
Let's go to another one here, Tenitra. Well, 4 sacks per game is not realistic. Let's just say 2 sacks a game. Anomaly or reality?
Yeah, I actually go a little higher. I'll go with 2.5. And okay, fine. I think 2.5 is absolutely reality. Yeah, I think 2.5 is absolutely reality.
Because I think that's the biggest anomaly of week 1, 4 sacks. We just lost Chuckery.
But on the same token, we did see some positive things, right? So we saw some obviously some solo sacks, right? But you saw Grady Jarrett, you saw Lorenzo Carter, you saw there being some combination there. And also when you think about the pressures and the QB hits, there were a lot of times where the Falcons defense almost got home and didn't quite get there. The other reason I say 2.5 sacks is because I believe the Dean Pease is going to go back to more blitzing, although he says 42% versus 47%, that he was still at 42% in the fourth quarter, 7% of the game. And I get that. But the eye test didn't quite look like that. If he goes back to blitzing more, especially towards the end of the game, coupled with the fact that he is bringing blitz packages from his secondary, I do think you can get to 2.5 sacks because Jalen Hawkins almost got home last week. So it almost was 4.5 or 5 sacks. That's why I'm saying 2.5 is reality.
What about you, Jarvis?
I think more so. I'm right there with Tenitra because when you think about how much Dean Pease wants to bring pressure, and I think he has the more confidence he gets in the back end of that defense, which I think he does have. I think that you'll see those guys start different levels of guys coming because we know he likes to blitz from all 3 levels, right? It went from linebacker, whether or not be Richard Grant. We saw that on Sunday where he was freed up coming through the middle of the defense and putting pressure on and making James Winston throw and having that throw. So I think those are some of the things that I'm definitely going to continue to look out for. And I think that, Arnie Ebiketie only had 26 snaps, right? And he had a sack and a hurry. If Adi Ogundeji doesn't get his stuff together, I think we're going to start seeing more of that rookie. And the more guys that are capable of getting home gets on the field, I think that 2.5 is definitely doable.
Chuckery, the pass rush, anomaly or reality?
Probably not that many a week, but if you could tell me that they could average 2 sacks a week, I would say that that's realistic. If you can be in the 30s, look, the magic number in the NFL is 40. That's go look at your defenses of playoff teams and things like that. 40 sacks is the magical number. If you can get there, typically there. I don't know if they're quite ready for 40 yet, even in a 17-game season. But if you can be 30, 35 compared to what it was last year, that'd be a major win. And look, 35, I'll take that all season long.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll get to one more
and
here.
That's a great too because
go ahead.
Yeah, because Mark, that literally, I love the way that John put that. If we're looking at it, and I know it's kind of anomaly versus reality, like 4 versus 2, but if you look at it like, can you at least double? Is that reality for you to double your total from last year? I'm going to go with yes. I'm going to go with you're going to double that.
All right, let's get a quick word from our friends at Coffee AM, the best small batch coffee roaster in America. Don't know about you guys. I start my day every morning Very simple routine. I walk downstairs. I get my little K cup from Coffee AM, drop it in the Keurig, and I get my coffee from Kenya, Costa Rica, Tanzania, Sumatra, wherever the hell these places are. I don't even know. I do know, but I just want to make it.
They're right outside of Brooklyn, right?
Yeah, I think so. Where in the world is Carmen San Diego? Where in the world is your Coffee AM from? Is a better question. But that's the selection that they got, guys, on their website, fresh and roasted on the same and shipped on the same day or close to it. So like when the box gets to your house, you're going to open it up. That smell's going to smack you right in the face, and it is absolutely delicious. So you guys go to coffeeam.com/locked-on. Check out that full menu of coffees, teas, and gift sets. Again, coffeeam.com/locked-on. Use the coupon code locked-on at checkout. You'll get 15% off your first order of coffees, teas, and gift sets from the best small batch coffee roaster in America, Coffee AM. And again, coffeeam.com. All right, with the Falcons, guys, as they take on the Rams here, what are the things that from week one, you want to see carry over, or where do they need to improve as they head into this, what I think is going to be a very tough contest with the Rams?
I think one of the things that you have to kind of take a look at for me is kind of just looking at some of the numbers and going back and looking over the things that were happening in that Saints game. I want Marcus Mariota to be a little bit more efficient in the pocket, right? When they don't send pressure, because I think he was 9 for 17. When they actually literally forced him to throw the football. So I think that if he can maybe hit Kyle Pitts like he's supposed to down the field, on some of those, and take some deep shots down the field, I think that will help that offense be a little bit more efficient, because it's hard scoring doing 12 to 13 play drives, because you're trying to run the football and trying to establish something, and you're not really hitting your shots when you take them on play action. So I think that if I want to see Marcus Mariota throw from the pocket, I know that it's an advantage for him to use his legs. I get that. I understand that part of it, but the book is going to be out on you if you continue to struggle in those moments. And I think Marcus Mariota has to be able to take advantage of that if this offense is going to show any type of consistency.
I'd love to see the pass rush carry over. We saw shades of and I'm an Arnold WKT fan, so I'm just going to go right there. We saw shades of what he could do in less than 40 snaps. What if he gets a few more snaps this go round? And Dean Pease talked about opening up the playbook 100% for this defense. What if he only opened it up 80 or 90% last week, and he's feeling more confident that he can open that up? Let's not act like Matthew Stafford is the most mobile quarterback in the world, and not act like therefore the Falcons can not get to him. So I'm just looking to carry over. That's one thing I'm willing to do, to just get more sacks and also just bring more pressure against him, because a lot of times we kind of look at the numbers and we say, was it 4 sacks or was it 2 sacks or 2.5 sacks? But I also think if you can get him off of his rhythm and get him off that rhythm early and keep him off that rhythm, that could also bode well for the Falcons.
Pitts in London in the red zone. I mean, Mark, is still a military term.
Yep.
An unused weapon is a useless weapon. And if you're going to sell me on back-to-back top 10 picks of pass catchers and their size and physicality and red zone threat and all that, then target them when you're in the red zone. They don't catch it, maybe that's one thing. But if you're not going to target them and you're not going to make some attempts to get them the football when you're down deep, you're not going to change up the culture of your offense. They're not going to be able to just run it right at everybody every single week. And there are going to be times when your quarterback's going to have to make some plays and get creative with those two guys. I know they targeted Pitts twice at the 25-yard line, but no targets for either of those guys. That's not acceptable, especially when you've got that much capital invested in those two guys.
Well, again, I think, there is a certain amount of, and I have been hyped, or I've been, harping on the Kyle Pitts target number all off season. 7 it's probably 1 or 2 targets too low. But when, you're giving 7 to Pitts and 7 to Drake London, he's probably going to snag some targets away from him, just because at least in week 1, he looked like a little bit of a mismatch at times. Comparatively speaking to what was out there. And that's not a bad secondary either in New Orleans. Those guys are actually pretty good. So yeah. I'm willing to concede that if they're both getting around 7 and 7, that's 119 targets for the year. If they average that over the course, 120 targets for the year. Ideally, I'd want Pitts in the 140 range so he can catch about 110 balls. But game to game, all that varies. And look, when you're playing with the lead, it's different. Like, you have to take that into account. Then I don't mind them looking at or looking away from those guys in a game with the lead and running the ball in the red zone. But I will say this much, that you allude to a certain point. their red zone conversion numbers this week have to be nearly flawless. You cannot settle for 3 against the Rams team. Kicking is for losers, and I don't care how good Younghoe Koo is, but nonetheless, this is not a team that can afford to settle for 3. I hope Arthur Smith understands that when you're playing a team like this on the road, that I'm okay with you going for it on 4th down. And if your defense played like it did last week, put them back on the field and let them try to go out there and slow down the Rams offense. I mean, you're not going to have an answer for Cooper Kupp, so I don't think you can figure that out one way or another. You just have to hope he can't beat you alone. And from that standpoint, if they can stop the run and take care of everybody else, I give him a fighting chance in this game. I give him a puncher's chance. I like him to cover the number. I'm not going to bet it, but if you give me 10 points with a team that was that good last week, that I thought looked really good, I would do it again. But I think the red zone thing really has to start to manifest itself, as you pointed out, Chuckery, that whether it's using those guys or anybody else, but they've got to be a team that can score 6 more than 3.
I think the number to watch too is Mariota had 33 pass attempts last week. How does that number fall in line with what he really is? I mean, do you really want Marcus Mariota throwing it 33 times? I know it's a different league and we're in the modern age of throwing the football around, but is 33 too much for him? Is that just about right? I'm going to be very curious to see the attempts that Marcus Mariota has over these next several weeks. If this last week was an anomaly, or if that's more of the norm of 30 plus passes per week for him.
I hope it's an anomaly, because to me, maybe if it's an anomaly, maybe that means that run game is closer to what we want it to be.
Well, and the 33 passes are a problem because he's not a very accurate, high completion percentage quarterback and hasn't been throughout his career. I don't think that's a terrible number. I think once you start to get north of 33 and you're in that 35 range, that's when you're opening up the door for a lot more interceptions and everything else. The problem is that he only completes about 63% of his passes. And in today's NFL, that's low. 15 years ago, that was great. Today, it's low.
But if you look, though, you 40 attempt quarterbacks in the league are reserved for your high caliber guys. That's your Aaron Rodgers. I mean, when you start looking at 40 attempts is the magic number, but when you start to get over 40, you rarely win in the NFL. So even with Rodgers and Breeze and and Matt Ryan and all those guys in that day, you don't want guys to. I mean, you start getting into 33 attempts, you are more headed toward 40 than you are back to 25 at that point. I think that's. I just think the attempt number. Look, if they get blown out, they may not have a choice, but 33 is probably a handful more than I want to see Mariota huck the ball around.
The only counter argument I have is that the more he throws, the more he can put the ball in the hands of Pitts in London, because there's no one to give it to him.
Well, as long as he targets him, sure.
Yeah, I don't want Mariota taking off that much. Like I think that's a recipe for failure for this offense.
I think, but I do believe that you have to use him in that manner, right? Like, not necessarily call runs, but I think the threat of him being able to run. So, in order for him to be a threat to run, you have to run him. So, because I think it gives the defense something else to think about, and I think that Arthur Smith needs that in order for his offense to run efficiently.
All right, final thoughts here, guys. We'll wrap it up here as we've gone heavy into the Atlanta Falcons and their game on Sunday. But let's pivot real quick here to Georgia on Saturday, South Carolina. If I would have told you guys heading into Week 3, the second best passing attack in the country would belong to the Georgia Bulldogs, you might look at me a little bit sideways, but that is the case right now at 395 yards per game through the air. You're starting to see Todd Monken and Kirby Smart, for that matter, sort of bring this offense into 2022 a little bit more. They're going up against a South Carolina team that's giving up 247 yards per game on the ground. This would be a game that, 5 years ago, Kirby Smart would have salivated over and would have ran the ball right down their throats. I don't see it happening. I think he's going to balance the run and the pass as much as he can. I think Georgia's going to cover this number as well at 24.5. The last 3 of the last 4 meetings were Georgia scored in the 40s and didn't give up more than 17. So it's right there. That said, how do you guys see this Georgia offense? What's the limit of it? And what are they going to do on Saturday?
Well, one thing you said that I really like is the fact that I think there's going to be a balanced attack as well. It was interesting because you never kind of think of, we all think of Georgia as RBU, but you never kind of think of them as having struggles, if you will, on the ground. But yeah, when you're talking about 57 carries and around 259 yards, that's a little bit different for what we're expecting. However, I think it's also a matter of taking what the defense gives you, right? So if those defenses in those first couple of games gave you that, and then if South Carolina gives you the same, because that's not a strong suit for them, then you take what that defense gives you. And I don't think that's a big issue. And I think too, theirs are kind of like hybrid as well, because they do some, they do have some plays in there that are right there on the borderline of, it's maybe not out of the backfield per se, but maybe it's just that kind of pitch and catch situation. So I kind of agree with you. I think it could be very, very balanced. But again, if the defense gives you the opportunity and you've got holes everywhere, and why not take advantage of that? Why not let Kendall Milton and Kenny McIntosh just do their thing?
Well, I would say that the number one question I had about Georgia's offense going into the season is, would Todd Monken and Kirby Smart turn this offense more over to Stetson Bennett and their passing game? And obviously no competition for Stetson coming in this year. I think they're willing to do that. I think to take that next step, to take that, evolution, which Saban and other coaches have had to take, you have to let your quarterback go out there and make some plays. Look, Stetson Bennett averaged a huge yards per attempt number last year. And he's still, I think, around 12 or something, this year. Those are big numbers even in college to have that many yards per attempt. So when they do throw the ball, they've always thrown it for a lot of chunks of yards and things like that. The other part about South Carolina is they turn the football over too much. So, Rattler's had, I think, 3 interceptions already this season. They turn the football over too much. You do that against Georgia, you turn the football over against Georgia and their defense and offense, you're going to get throttled out there. I'm with you, Mark. I don't think this will be much of a game on Saturday. This will be another tune-up game for Georgia. And
to add to what you said, Chuck, I think that Kirby has a trust in Todd Monken, right? Because, defensive-minded head coaches, Nick Saban, it took him a while to come around on that. Like, hey, you can't run the ball with your 250-pound running back who runs a 4.5 50 times a game and win football games, right? Because when Lane Kiffin came in, he's like, hey, man, I want to run my offense. And he finally let the reins go, and then you see what happened. And I think Kirby Smart is kind of going into that mode as well because – Todd Monken, like in that first game, I was amazed. Because you saw wide receivers come across the formation. He made the offense simple. Like he put his quarterback in situations where it's either a one read or go. And if it's not there, then I want you to go here, do the check down. Like it was just Stetson Bennett was. I can't believe I'm about to say this. He looked like an NFL quarterback for a hot second in that first game because
he keeps playing it's going to get there. I don't know if it's not going to get the first round, but it's good.
No, I'm not saying that.
Somebody will take a chance. I would never go from that.
Yeah, somebody will take a chance on him because when you think about the concepts that he's using, that Todd Monken is using, because we know he has that NFL experience, and he's making a good case. Mark, I thought you made a good point. He's making a good case for possibly not being on this coaching staff next year because there are a couple of openings right now going on right now.
Head coach, guys, Todd Monken.
Yeah, he's like what he's done with
be a head coach too.
Yes, no doubt.
Yes. That's the other part of it too. Is that he wants to take that next step as well. So when you're the offensive coordinator for the number one team in America, guess what? Everybody's beating down your door to pull you in, right? How do you think Kirby ended up at Georgia, right? Coming back home, take him off the best staff in America and bring him back home.
Yeah,
I think that's going to happen. I believe that's going to wholeheartedly happen. I think Todd Monken is doing great things with his offense, and I'm glad that Kirby Smart is kind of, hey, do your thing. Let's keep the main thing, but I'm gonna let you do your thing, and it has been working wonders for Stetson Bennett and the Georgia football team as a whole.
Yeah, and I'm going to be interested to see what the defense does as well. I think they only have 1 sack so far this season. Kind of odd. That's kind of unusual for them. So I'm interested to see not just if they bring pressure, but just how that defense comes together just to put a little more pressure on Spencer Rattler. Yes, of course, quarterback hits and pressures, but I want to see some sacks as well. I want to see how the Dogs get home.
Yeah, this is one of these games here. Georgia has already done a job this week of separating themselves from the field. Yeah. This is one of those spots, and I think all college coaches have this in the back of their mind. Obviously, they just want to win the damn game, but they understand aesthetics matter, and they understand how statement games matter. And whether they tell you out loud that the rankings, I don't care, this, that, and the other, we're not playing for that. Yeah, all that stuff. Like Sam Pittman told you this week. Yeah, the ranking matters, right? They're all paying attention to it. You'd rather be
recruiting, Mark. Recruiting. That's why I'm doing it.
It's fine. It's a perfect answer, but I'm just saying. Yes. I always say that Kirby wants to go into
where Georgia is. Think about this, Mark. Alabama went and beat Texas. They didn't lose to Texas. They still beat Texas. Close game or not, they still went and beat Texas. Georgia beat an FCS team, okay, which everybody knew that they were going to kick the crap out of. And Georgia still jumped them in the rankings. That should tell you a lot about where everybody in America thinks about Georgia right now, not just hangover or I mean,
And they got 17 first place
definitely
votes
feeling
that first week, although Alabama was in that number one spot. I thought that was very interesting when Alabama walks away with 44 of those first place votes, but Georgia walked away with 17. So I think that's something to be said there as well.
I think Kirby wants to make a statement win here and go out and win big against this team. You know, again, Shane Beamer used to be on the staff, and I think that's a guy who keeps coming at you for 60 minutes. And remember, that game against Arkansas last week, final score is a blowout. That's a 21-16 game heading into the fourth quarter with South Carolina having the ball. There was 3 turnovers in that fourth quarter that ultimately made that game get really ugly at the end. South Carolina plus 8.5 right here. On the wrong side. Thanks. Nonetheless, I felt great heading into the final 15 minutes, but de sera, whatever will be. So, again, Georgia's going to be they are incredibly public back this week. It's like disgusting how much everybody is laying the wood with Georgia. But, hey, sometimes the public is right. So, never a bad time to guys stay with Locked On Sports Atlanta. By the way, on Roku TV right now, on Apple Fire Stick, Amazon Fire Stick. Maybe if you go to Apple and buy your Amazon Fire Stick. Nonetheless, anywhere you get Roku TV, you guys can watch this program every single day. You can go watch Hitting Hard. You can watch ATL Day Ones, of course, A to Z, our Braves postcast, Locked On Falcons, Locked On Hawks. All that is going to be on Roku TV every single day. So if you guys want to digest it that way, please make sure you check it out there. Leave the comments and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well, Locked On Sports Atlanta. Of course, you can follow us all on Twitter right there. You see as you're watching at Mark Zinno, at JMCH316, at Tenitra Batiste, at Jarvis D90. All of us on Twitter and, of course, at Locked On ATL. So wishing you guys nothing but a very wonderful weekend. Let's hope the Atlanta sports weekend goes better this weekend around than it did last weekend.
Indeed.
Go Falcons.
Go Falcons, go Braves.
Go Braves.
We'll talk to you guys
Jacks.
next week. Have a great Friday. Talk to you guys soon. See ya.
Y'all come back now.